Hi, today I'm going to be making meatballs, homemade meatballs. It may seem intimidating, and sometimes it can be, but over the years I've tried several recipes, and today I'm going to combine my 3 favorite recipes to make the best ever homemade meatballs. The list of ingredients that you will need to prepare your meatballs are half a pound of ground beef, half a pound of ground pork, half a pound of ground veal, 3 pieces of stale bread, you can use fresh bread if you like, some milk to soak your bread in, 3 eggs, half a cup of Parmesan cheese, a half a bunch of Italian parsley, 1 whole head of garlic cloves, salt and pepper to taste, and plenty of onion powder. The list of ingredients that you'll need to make your homemade sauce are 2 large cans of crushed tomato, 2 large cans of tomato puree. If you like a little chunk in your sauce, go ahead and add a diced tomato, some fresh garlic, some onion, we're going to put those in a food processor, some fresh basil, 1 cup of Italian red wine, salt and pepper to taste, some Italian sausage, either hot or mild, whatever your family prefers, a dash of oregano, and then just a pinch of sugar to take the acidity out of the tomato sauce. I used 3 separate meats, a ground beef, ground pork, and a ground veal, because I think it really makes the meatball savory and adds a depth to the flavor. So please don't skip on this step. I've broken up my head of garlic, and I'm going to add almost all of it to the food processor. I like to save a little bit for the sauce that I'm going to hand press. And then again, I've washed and dried my Italian parsley, and I'm going to add that to my food processor now. I like to really get it finely chopped. You may need to at some times stop it and scrape down the sides. This is the consistency you're looking for. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take my bread. I'm using sourdough bread. So now the bread is good and moist. And I go ahead and I sometimes squeeze it out. And I put it in my food processor. Don't worry if you get a little bit of milk in there. It's just a little extra moisture. And then also, a little tip is if your meatballs do seem a little moist and you have some dried breadcrumbs in your refrigerator or your cabinet, you can go ahead and add those to your meatballs to get the consistency right. I'm going to go ahead and put my food processor back on. And mix those up, and they look really good. I'll give you a little idea of how that looks. So next we're going to go ahead and season our meat. I just add a little bit of salt and pepper. I don't measure anything. I just kind of look at it. If the meat is covered with salt and pepper. I do add a lot of the onion powder because I don't like chunks of onion in my meatballs, but I do like the flavor. Also, as I'm going along, if I see that maybe there needs to be a little bit more meat or a little bit less of my parsley, garlic, and breadcrumbs, then I adjust as I go. And I also think it's really important not to over mix your meatballs because then they get a little too dense and tough. Just put this in. I'm going to give it a quick mix with this, kind of get those eggs going. Like I suspected, it's a little heavy on the parsley and the garlic. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more pork. and a little bit more of the veal. This will bring the recipe to 1 pound veal, 1 pound pork, which will be kind of nice because then we'll have that many more meatballs. And sprinkle in my half a cup of cheese. Next, I think we're ready to form our meatballs. Okay, now the fun part. We get to make and cook our little meatballs. First, we need to preheat the oven to 450. You cook your meatballs for about 15 to 20 minutes. Some people fry them, that's fine. And some people actually boil them right in their sauce, that's fine as well. I prefer to either fry them or actually I like to bake them in the oven. That way you get them all done at once and some of the excess fat melts off of it. And then when you put your meatball in your sauce, you don't have to worry about that fat floating on the top of your sauce. So I'm going to go ahead and spray down my pan. Just a quick spray because again there'll be a little bit of fat coming off the meat. Another fun little thing I like to do is use an ice cream scooper. I sometimes ask my boys, do you want big or little meatballs? And if they want big, then I use that size, and if not, then I use one of the melon scoopers. And it makes it kind of fun for them. They don't have to be perfect or all exact. It just matters that they're roughly the same size so that they cook evenly. Okay, so I have all of my meatballs formed, and I had a little extra meat, so I made a little baby meatball and I put it in the middle just for fun. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the oven. Again, that's at 450 degrees for about 15 minutes. You're not cooking your meatballs all the way through, you're just getting them browned and kind of sealing them so that once you put them in your pot, they stay informed. Next, I'm going to use my garlic press. In case anybody doesn't know, this is how you press your garlic. Put your peeled cloves in there. Give it a nice squeeze. Get your knife and scrape it off. And then I go ahead, clean out the chamber, and use all of it. And that's it. Now let's go ahead and start on our sauce while our meatballs are baking. Go ahead and add just a little bit of olive oil into your pan. I'm using a Dutch oven, but you can use a stock pot or whatever you like. I even sometimes make this in a crock pot, but I just brown my items in a frying pan. I'm going to add a few Italian sausages. I love the flavor that they add. Oh my gosh, it already smells so good in here. Let's check on the meatballs. That looks about right. It's been 15 minutes. There's plenty of grease in the bottom of the pan, and there's just a little bit of browning on the top of the meatballs. You can rotate them if you like, but it's not necessary. And again, they're not cooked all the way through. That's going to happen in the sauce. Okay, our sausages are nice and browned. I'm going to add some onions. We're going to cook those just a little bit. Once you see your onions are browning up nicely, you can go ahead and add your garlic. Onions, because they're a little bit larger, take a little bit longer to cook. So don't add your onions and garlic at the same time or your garlic will burn. Once your onions are browned like this and your garlic's cooked for about really just 30 seconds to a minute, we're going to add your 1 cup of red wine to loosen up those bits at the bottom. Give it great flavor. And then we'll go straight to adding your tomatoes. I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients. A little trick, I think fresh basil is very important. I've gone ahead and washed it and dried it, and then I just get my kitchen shears and I just cut it right in there. Just little strips. Just like 2 or 3 leaves is enough. If the recipe, I think, technically calls for a teaspoon, I just do a dash for oregano, whatever you feel like. Salt and pepper to taste. So once you've stirred your sauce and mixed your ingredients in, I'm going to go ahead and take some tongs and very gently add your meatballs. You want your meatballs to come to a boil in the sauce, so I've raised the temperature to high. Once they come to a boil, you lower it to simmer or low, and they cook for an hour, or if you want, they can cook for all day long, and all those flavors just meld into the sauce. I'm just going to add a dash of sugar like I talked about earlier. That might even be too much. Just a pinch. I hope you enjoyed the recipe for homemade meatballs and sauce. It's absolutely delicious. If you'd like more recipes like this, please subscribe to my cooking channel, Cooking with Ms Gayla. Thank you so much, and if you'd like to leave a comment, leave it down below. And if you'd like to hear a little bit about how I came up with this recipe, it's a combination of 2 of my friends, Linda and Chrissy, plus another one that I added. Thank you. Bye.